He said, do you remember just where I brought you from? Just take a look behind you at how far you've come. Oh, and every time you ask me, didn't I deliver you? So why would you be thinking that I wouldn't see you through? Didn't I walk on the water? Did I calm the raging sea? I spoke to the wind, and hushed when I gave you peace. Didn't I run to your rescue? Didn't I hear you when you called? Walked right beside you just so you wouldn't fall. Didn't I leave all of heaven just to die for your sin? I searched until I found you, and I do it all again. Now she's talking to her father in a house that was once a home. She said, my bills are coming due, Lord, and 6 days is not that long. She hears a voice so soft and low. He said, I moved like that before, and I'll do this little thing. Oh, and I'll give you so much more. Didn't I walk on the water? Did I calm the raging sea? I spoke to the wind, and hushed when I gave you peace. Didn't I run to your rescue? Didn't I hear you when you called? Walked right beside you just so you wouldn't fall. Didn't I leave all of heaven just to die for your sin? I searched until I found you, and I do it all again. Didn't I leave all of heaven just to die for your sin? I searched until I found you, and I do it all again.
Today, we come to this place to worship that God who stepped out of heaven to walk beside us, who walks on the troubled waters for us and pulls us out of hell. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, guys, for that song. Thank you for that reminder. If you're a guest with us, a first or a second time guest, there are 2 cards in the back of your pew. One, we're going to ask that you fill that out. Pew, listen to me. Chair. It's in the back of the chair in front of you. If you will, it's a white card. Just fill that out. Give us a record of your attendance here with us today. And then the second card is for anybody who is sitting here today. Maybe there's a prayer request that you have. Maybe you're still struggling with your insurance company. Maybe you're considering what you're going to do with your house. Maybe there's a medical issue that you might be having. Fill this out with your prayer request. Drop it into the offering plate when it comes by. And give us as a staff an opportunity and the privilege to pray for you this week. And if you filled out the white card, put that one also in the offering plate. It's the only thing that we're going to ask that you put in the offering plate if you're a first time or second time guest with us, okay? At this time, I would like to invite all the children down front. All the children down front. And those who have worked with these children, whether it's in Sunday school, whether it's in Awanas, whether you had some, come on down. So I know that we got some Sunday school teachers up here. Come on, if you have touched these kids in one way or another, please come down. As everybody makes their way down, I heard a commercial this morning. And the commercial says that we as parents spend an average of 37 minutes a day of quality time with our kids. 37 minutes. In 24 hours, we spend 37 minutes with our kids. I said, that's got to be a joke. Well, I looked up on the website, and a recent poll in 2017 says, study has found that we as parents only spend 37 quality minutes a day with our kids. Well, these kids, as you see, did something this week and this year. If I can just get one of these boxes back here. I felt in their heart to prepare a Christmas shoebox. And this box is filled with toys and different goodies. But the most important thing that's in here is the gospel. So these kids, in a few moments, we're going to pray and dedicate these boxes. But these are your children's workers and those who come and prepare those boxes. How about if we just give them a little thank you? Where's he at? They do this in children's church. And so Mr. Andrew, who leads our Sunday children's church ministry, is upstairs. So when you see him, he's about my height. And about the same age as me, maybe a little bit older, I don't know. But when you see Mr. Andrew Claggett, give him a little tap on the shoulder, say thank you for what he does. All right, we're going to pray and dedicate these boxes to the individuals that are going to be receiving them, okay? Teachers, thank you for what you do. Children, thank you for what you do. You have given the gift of life to someone. So thank you. Let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you that you have placed us into a land, a country, where we have an abundance of good things. We have an abundance of food, abundance of shelters. We have the luxury of heating and cooling and protection from the weather elements. You have given to us the opportunity to go to schools. You've given us a land where we have the freedom to worship you. Father, we thank you for that. Today, as we worship you, we want to say thank you for that. We'll do that through song and the giving of our tithes and the hearing of your words. Thank you for those blessings. But Father, you have given to us children here at this church and in our families that see the need and have the love for those who don't always have the blessings that we have here. So Father, although our hands are not collectively on these boxes, know that we have put our heart in there. We are praying over them. That when this little boy, this little girl receives these boxes, that they will see the toys and they will enjoy the fun that they bring. But Father God, that they will hear the gospel and they will see the love of a Christian brother or sister halfway around the world and know that they're loved and they're being prayed for. Father, for the adults that work with these children, how they pour into their lives and they share their heart with them and they develop inside these boys and girls a motivation to love you, to follow you. Will you bless the adults that have so selfishly, sacrificially sacrificed their time and their efforts? Father, today will you hear our praise? Will you hear our prayer? Will you see us? Will you be with us today? For today we give this day to you. You're our God. We're your people. Hear our prayers. May our praise be glorified to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated.
Take all I have in these hands and multiply, God, all that I am, and find my heart on the altar again. Set me on fire, set me on fire. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Sing that chorus again. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. My heart stands in awe of your name, your mighty love stands strong to the end. You will fulfill your purpose for me. You want to save me, you will be with me. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. All to Jesus now, all to Jesus now, holding nothing back, holding nothing back. All to Jesus now, all to Jesus now, holding nothing back, holding nothing back. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Amen. Can you give some praise this morning? Father, let that be our prayer this morning, that we are gracefully broken. God, you redeem us, you fulfill us, God. You lift up us when we're down. God, just praise your holy, precious name.
Be the shadow where I hide, the rest of Father, I just ask that you will bless this offering. May this offering be given to you in a cheerful manner. In the precious name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Praise God from whom blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy His crown and kingdom never ends. Now and throughout eternity, I'll praise the one who died for me. Praise God, praise God, praise God who saved my soul. Praise God, praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, praise God, praise God who saved my soul. Praise God, praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God from whom blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Give you praise this morning. Father, we love you. We praise you. We praise your holy and precious name this morning. You are worthy of all of our praise. God, I pray that you with Josh as he delivers the message this morning. Be with our hearts, our minds, our souls. Just take it, what you have given Josh. We give you all the praise and honor to you and to you alone. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Well, good morning. Good morning. We're glad to see you this morning. I will forewarn you, I didn't get to preach last night. I didn't get to preach Wednesday. I hope y'all packed your lunch. We're going to be here a little while. Thank y'all for carrying on last week. I've heard all kinds of good reports. Said y'all really enjoyed Brother Moore's, that he brought an excellent message. I hate that I didn't get to experience it this morning. Maybe I'm going to. Okie dokie. But thank y'all. Thank you for the time away. Emily and I had a chance to relax, a chance to just retreat, the two of us. Had the opportunity to spend a little time listening to some good preaching. And so, I had a guy that went to convention with us that asked me the other day, said, so, which of the sermons are you preaching this Sunday? And I said, none of them. It's like, all those sermons you got at convention, you're not preaching any of them. I said, I'm going to get there, but I have some other stuff I wanted to do first. I want to talk this morning a little bit about faith. And specifically about finding your faith. If you have your Bibles, we'll be in Hebrews chapter 11. Now, when you talk about faith, I want you to understand something right off the bat. Faith is not something unique. Every person has faith. Every person has a measure of faith. Actually, Paul tells us in Romans chapter 12, verse 3, for us to think soberly, not for us to think more highly of ourselves than we ought to, that God has dealt, that He's distributed to each of us a measure of faith. Everybody's got faith. The question is, where do you put your faith? What is your faith placed in? We're going to talk a little bit this morning, and I'm going to ask you to honestly, to earnestly examine your faith. To consider what kind of faith you have. Now, I feel the need to forewarn you. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager in this church, I was given the opportunity once a year to preach on Youth Sunday. And the second time I ever preached a sermon, I pray there were not tapes existing of that sermon. It was horrendous. But I preached on this particular passage, and I remember my youth minister sitting in the second row, tapping his watch, going, are you ever going to wrap this up? And so I'm going to try to be aware this morning and not go ridiculously long, but there's a lot to cover. And so I'm not going to tell a bunch of cute stories. We're just going to dive into it. Hebrews chapter 11, beginning verse 1, it says this. It says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it elders obtained a good testimony. By faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the worlds which were seen were not made of things which are visible. By faith Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying with his gifts, and through it he being dead still speaks. By faith Enoch, when he was taken away so that he did not see death, and was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony that he pleased God. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. By faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive as inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going. By faith he dwelt in the land of promises, in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. By faith Sarah herself also received strength to conceive seed as she bore a child when she was past the age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore from one man, and him as good as dead, were born as many as the stars of the sky, a multitude innumerable as the sand which is by the seashore. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind that country from which they had come out, they would have had opportunity to return. But now they desire a better, that is a heavenly country. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Would you pray with me? Father, we thank you this morning for the privilege and the opportunity to be in your house. And God, I ask for guidance and insight to the reading of your word. I ask that you help us to depart your word rightly. God, speak truth. Give us ears to hear what your Spirit says. Guard my lips. May you be honored and glorified in each of us. Lord, we love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, the reality is we could have read all of Hebrews chapter 11, and I kind of cut it off a little bit, because what you have is just a continuation of stories, of examples of those that lived by faith. Those people that were enshrined in the hall of faith. And what I find interesting is the thing that they were noted for wasn't the miraculous acts, the things that they experienced. The thing that God was pleased with was faith. And when we talk about faith, the writer of Hebrews gives us a definition. What is faith? And the writer of Hebrews says this: "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Now here's the thing you need to understand. The Christian faith is not a blind faith. We have evidence. We have things that have been given to us to prove to us that God is who he says he is. But the writer of Hebrews is saying faith in and of itself is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Those things that we cannot physically see, faith is what gives us certainty. Faith is what concretes those things. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Hypostasis. It is the sub-foundation of everything the Christian hopes for. And it says, in the evidence of things not seen. The thing that you need to understand about evidence in the Greek, it is not just evidence, but evidence that stands up under cross-examination. Faith is what makes a believer unshakable. Faith is what that confidence, that is certain, or that assurance, that certainty that we have of who we believe in and what's coming for us. Now, I'll be honest, when I read this definition, I struggle a little bit. And so let me give you the Josh definition of faith. Faith is belief that is so certain that it changes the way you act. Faith is belief that you act on. We have a hope, we have a certainty, and so we do. The writer of Hebrews gives us a definition for faith, but then we find out that there's developments that come from faith. There's things that come through faith. Verse 2 tells us, for by it the elders obtained a good testimony. Promotion comes through faith. What I find interesting is the writer of Hebrews said, you know what was special about the elders, about those people that I'm writing about? They were given a good testimony, not because of the miracles they performed or the things they did, but because of the faith that drove it. We find promotion through faith. We find God's pleasure is directly tied to our faith. Verse 6 tells us, but without faith it is impossible to please him, for he comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. You want to please God? It's not about following the list of rules. It's not about giving enough money. Do you want to please God? God is pleased by your faith, by your willingness to trust him, to take him at his word, and to act on it. Now, there's a lot of things we do for God. There's things that we do because we say we want to put a smile on his face, we want to honor God, we want to please him. And as long as that is driven and coming out of a place of faith, he finds pleasure in it. Now, on the other hand, if we decide that we need to do enough to earn God's trust, to earn his pleasure, to earn his love, we've missed the whole boat. He's not pleased by it. You have these developments. Earthly promotion is tied to faith. God's pleasure is directly tied to our faith. And then we find that his promise is dependent on faith. Verses 13 through 16 say, these all died in faith, not having received the promises. But having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind the country from which they had come out, they have had opportunity to return, but now they desire a better, that is, a heavenly country. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Everything in life is dependent on where you place your faith. Now, I told you to begin with, faith is not something that's uncommon. Everybody's got faith. Whether you realize it or not, you are acting on faith right now. You are sitting in a chair that you're placing your faith in, that those metal legs are going to hold you up. You believe and you trust it. When you take a step across this floor, you're going to have faith that gravity is going to continue to exist. Faith isn't unique. Where we place our faith is what matters. So you have a definition, you have the development of faith, and then the author of Hebrews gives us a list and a demonstration of faith. So these people that we look at, what impressed God wasn't that they gave so much money, or they said all the right things. What impressed God, what brought him pleasure, was that they trusted him. Now, if you think about the examples he gives, for those of you that have a church background, for those of you that grew up in church as a kid, he starts listing off a bunch of names, and as I'm reading those names, the Bible stories are rolling through my head. I'm starting to think of all these people, all the things that God's done. He talks about Abel and Enoch and Noah and Moses, or the patriarchs, or Joshua, or Rahab. He talks about Gideon or Barak or Jephthah or Samson. He talks about David or Samuel or the prophets. He alludes to David, to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the thing that God was pleased with them was their faith. Was that they trusted him. It was their faith. Even for those guys that led to their reception of the promise. I've been asked before, what about Old Testament believers? How are they justified before God? The very same way we are. It's always been about faith. They were waiting on the Messiah. They were awaiting that country. And they trusted God for it. And we were told that it was counted to them as righteousness. It's always been about faith. The Old Testament, the New Testament, it's consistent. God is not pleased by who we present ourselves to be, by how we act, or the things we do. God is pleased by where we place our faith. Now we have these examples, but I want to read you into the story this morning. I want to ask you to consider your own faith. And what kind of faith do you have? When Emily and I left our ministry, more years back than I care to remember, we moved to Mississippi and we didn't have a house, and we didn't have a job, and I didn't have a church. But we knew God was leading us. I think most people thought we had lost our minds. I've doubted that a few times. But for some reason, there was just this confidence, this something that said, this is what God's calling you to do, and you better go. Now, I'm not saying that to say, look at me and look at what I've done. All I'm saying is, faith means you're completely dependent on the person you're placing your faith in. We had no way we could fall back on ourselves and say, God, no. But when I look at this list of people, my faith compared to theirs doesn't even register. When I think about Abraham and God moving him to a far-off country that he hasn't seen, said, pack up your family and go, and he said, okay, I'm going. Or when you think about Noah and God telling him, build an ark. Now, it's not raining, and people are going to think you're crazy, and it's going to take you forever to build an ark, and when I flood the earth, your family's going to be saved. What kind of faith did it take to start to gather up the wood and the materials and build that thing? Or Joshua. I have a special love in my heart for Joshua. It's got a good name.
Amen.
But what kind of faith did it take to lead an army to march around the city for 7 days? It defies all logic. Why on earth am I going to lead an army and say, just play on your trumpets and let's walk? And they did. You see, it wasn't just the obedience, it was the faith that drove that obedience. It was the fact that they trust the God that told them to do it, and they did. Talk about David, or Samuel, or Samson. Or you talk about the prophets, you talk about Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The fact that Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were willing to look the king in the eye and say, our God's going to deliver us, but even if he don't, we're not going to bow down to your image. I'm humbled by that faith. And so my question to you this morning is, what kind of faith do you have? And when I look at this list, my faith isn't anywhere close to that, so let me give you some options. Some have an incredulous faith. What I mean by that is this. They are antagonistic to the gospel. They say, this is hogwash, this is ridiculous. And you might say, well, that's no faith at all. No, that's faith in themselves. For somebody to stand and declare there is no God, or I would rather die and spend an eternity in hell if that is real, than to bow down to that God, that's still faith. They're just putting it in the wrong place. There's a book out. Do you know it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to be a Christian? I don't have enough faith to believe that. Now, with each of these, I'm going to give you 5 options for the kind of faith you could have. And I'm going to give you problems with that kind of faith. I'm going to give you a prescription for that kind of faith. And then I'm going to give you a promise that comes with that faith. Now, if you talk about an incredulous person, here's some of the problems. Antagonism. That idea, this is ridiculousness. That same kind of cynicism tends to infiltrate every area of life. For those that are incredulous, that are rejecting the gospel, they have no access to the Heavenly Father. There's a problem with inaccessibility. There's a problem with isolation. What I mean by that is this. They are missing their very purpose in life. One of the most fundamental things that we have is understanding why we are here. I know that was the name of Brother Morris's sermon last week. But let's go back even beyond the New Testament church. Why are we here? Humanity was created for fellowship with God. The Westminster Shorter Catechism says that the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. And for those that are incredulous, for those that say there's no way on earth that that God of the Bible is real, they're completely isolated from the purpose they were created for. And then for those with an incredulous faith, the fourth problem is absence. There's an absence of God's presence. There's an absence of God's protection. There's an absence of the influence of the church. I told you I'm going to give you a problem. I'm going to give you the promise. I'm going to give you a prescription. Here's the promise for those that have an incredulous faith. Their choice is their sentence. God is going to honor their choice. You see, God gives us the ability to choose. He didn't make us mindless drones. And if they say it is ridiculous, the thought that there's a God, I'm not going to place my faith in Him, then God's going to honor their choice. And their choice becomes their sentence. And if you're here today and you say, listen, I have wanted nothing to do with the God of this Bible, first off, I hope that God changes your heart. But here's the prescription. Here's what you need to do. Number one, repent. Recognize the fact that there is a God and you are not Him. Relinquish control of your life to Him. And then rest in Him. You might say, well, I'm here this morning. There's no way on earth that I have an incredulous faith. I'm not antagonistic to the gospel. I wouldn't be sitting in this room. Well, maybe you're indifferent to the gospel. The second is an indifferent faith that says, oh, it's not really that I don't like God. I just don't care. The same problems that those that are antagonistic to the gospel have plagued those that are indifferent to the gospel. We're still isolated from our Heavenly Father. We still battle those problems of accessibility and aloneness, and absence of His presence. Now here's the thing I want you to understand. Probably the fastest growing faith in America is this kind of faith. An indifferent faith. Fastest growing sect in America are the nuns. Not the Catholic nuns, the N-O-N-E-S nuns. Those that when they are polled, asked about their religious preference and affiliation, they answer none. And it's not that they hate the church, they just don't have any use for it. They're indifferent. I had the opportunity to hear J.D. Greear last week. J.D. Greear is the current president of the Southern Baptist Convention. I've got notes on his sermon, and I'm going to rewrite it so it's not exactly his sermon. I'll give you as much as I can of his stuff, because it was outstanding. And he shared a little bit about his time as a missionary, and he said that within a mile of his house in that time as a missionary, there's a mosque down the street. He said, he was like everybody else. There were difficult times. There were times that tried them. He said, but never once in the time of being there did he have the thought, I'm having a troubling time, I need to go to the mosque. He said, it just never entered my mind. What you have to realize is that same mentality plagues our culture as a whole. We say, where are people on Sunday mornings? Why aren't they in church? That same mentality that he had about the mosques, they have about religion as a whole. They're indifferent. It just doesn't enter their minds that they should be in God's house. Now, some are indifferent, and they do it because they don't want to be wrong. Here's the promise associated with an indifferent faith. Your choice is your sentence. The same thing with an incredulous faith. God doesn't say, well, you didn't choose wrong, so I'm going to count that to you as righteousness. He said, if you refuse to place your faith in me, there's no hope. And so the answer there is this. What do I do? What is the prescription if I've just been indifferent? Repent. Recognize the presence of God. Receive His Holy Spirit. Realize the life that He has for you. You might say, I'm not incredulous and I'm not indifferent. I'm still sitting in the building. But let me give you three other kinds of faith. There's an isolated faith. An isolated faith says this: my faith, my salvation, everything is dependent on the work of Jesus, and that's absolutely true. But there's a lot of people that said, my faith, my hope is found in Jesus, and I need nothing to do with organized religion. I don't want anything to do with the church. Here's the problem. You're alone. There's an absence. There's an absence of the influence, of the input, of the support, the steadying, the stretching, the sharing of the church. There's a problem with abandonment. See, here's part of faith. Faith is belief that drives action. Faith means I'm going to be obedient to the person that I'm following. And if you can honestly say, I believe in Jesus, but I want nothing to do with this church and this people, you're ignoring what he's told you. Now let me say this. The church has not historically helped itself. There have been times we made it far more difficult than we should. There have been times that abuses have happened within the walls of the church. We have to be aware of that, and we have to change it. But for those that say, well, I can have Jesus, but I don't want any of that other stuff, you're missing out on his plan. And I told you, there's problems, there's a promise. Here's the promise. Christ is sufficient. Amen. Even if you aren't living faithfully, even if you aren't following and obeying what he tells you, even if you let something come in the way of fellowship in the church, I don't want anything to do with that. Jesus is enough. Now you're missing blessings. You're missing part of his purpose and his plan for your life, but Jesus is enough. Now here's the prescription. Maybe you're isolated in your faith. I believe in Jesus, but I'm not going to be part. I haven't been part of his local body. Here's what you need to do. First off, profess Jesus as Lord. You've already done that. Second thing, partner with his people. Partner with the local congregation. We would love to have you here at Carlisle. If it's not here, find the place God has for you. The third thing, practice. Part of faith should result in obedience. It's clear his intention was never for us to walk alone. It was never for us to live this life of faith by ourselves. Be obedient, partner with the church, practice what he tells you to. And the last thing is proclaim. Brother Morris talked last week about the Great Commission. Oftentimes when we're isolated by ourselves, we keep our mouths shut about who we believe, what we trust. And even in that, we're missing part of his mission and his purpose. You need to open up talk. Maybe say, well, I don't have an isolated faith. Again, I'm here. Here's the two I think probably apply to most people in this room. The fourth kind, you can have an insulated faith. What I mean by that is this. You might have a faith that only exists within the walls of this church. A faith that the way that you live it out and practice it doesn't leave here with you. Now there's some problems with that. I'm a firm believer that there are benefits to being part of a local church. I believe that God had purpose in his design. And it's a good thing to be part of a church. But what happens when the church never leaves its building? There are far too many believers that are way too happy to live out their faith in this room and walk out the door and leave it here. Now, there's a whole bunch of good things that come from being part of his family. But there's some problems that happen when, as part of our holy huddle and part of the faith family, it's insulated and that's all you hear. It becomes an echo chamber. And sometimes arrogance creeps in. You know, it's really easy to feel really good about yourself when you're surrounded by all the people that agree with you. When you're in a place where you're celebrating all that God's doing. but you're missing the mission. Sometimes arrogance creeps in, and then there's still an absence. There's an absence of blessing when a church refuses to do what God calls it. And so if your faith is so insulated, hey, I'm happy to go to church, I look forward to Sunday, but don't ask me to go talk to somebody outside the walls. You're missing part of God's plan. Now here's the promise. Christ is sufficient. If your faith is in Jesus, He's enough. The church is going to supplement. The church is going to help you when you're plugged in. But you're still missing something. And so what's the prescription? Practice and proclaim. Expand. Do what God's called you to do. Here's the last kind of faith. I realize I'm taking a lot of time this morning. And this is my hope, this is my prayer for every person in this room. You can have an incredulous faith, one that's antagonistic to the gospel and your faith is placed in yourself. You can have an indifferent faith that says, I'm just going to trust whoever and whatever and hope it works out in the end. You can have an isolated faith that says, I trust Jesus, but I don't want anything to do with His people. You can have an insulated faith that says, I trust people and I love this church, but don't ask me to do anything beyond that. Or then you have the last thing, which is an integrated faith. An integrated faith is this. It is a faith that is part of everything you are and you do. I told you earlier, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Substance. The foundation. Everything we are as believers is built on faith, which means faith has to be in everything we do. It means that we live out our faith, whether we're in this place or we're in the workplace. We live out our faith. We're sitting in a nice, comfortable chair if we're standing in the line. It means that we do more than just claim God's promises. It means that we follow His plan. Now let me give you the promises associated with this. If you have an integrated faith, that your faith is the foundation of everything you are, and everything you are is rooted and built up in the person of Jesus Christ. Promise number one, Christ is sufficient. He's enough. Your future is secure. The second thing, the church will supplement. You're going to have the benefits of God's people in the local body. And the third thing, your character is going to shine. You see, what was different about the people in Hebrews chapter 11 was that they had an integrated faith. It infiltrated, it impacted every area of life. And verse 2, by their faith, they obtained a good testimony. Their character shone. You might say, what are the problems with that? That's doing what God's called us to do. I can give you two problems, things I can promise you. Attacks and adversity. If you're living faithfully for the person of Jesus Christ, you're going to endure attacks. You're going to face adversity. It's going to happen. And you know what? Paul took it as a badge of honor. When Paul talked about trials and tribulations, when he talked about suffering, he said, I'm glad that you count me worthy. If you're finding difficulty because you profess Jesus, good on you. That's something to celebrate. You see, we have this idea in life. We want to go through life comfortable, without anything bothering us. But a life that is marked by an integrated faith is going to find problems. And so what's the prescription? It's really simple. Persist. Keep going. Keep doing it. My hope, my call, the thing I want to urge you to do more than anything else this morning is this. Place your faith in Jesus. If you've never called Him Savior and Lord, everything in me, He is the only one on earth it is due that has earned my complete trust. Put your faith in Him. Others say, I have made that decision. Live it out. Let that faith infiltrate and take over every part of your life. And here this morning, you're going to say, I've got some questions, I've got some hesitations, there's some things that scare me. Faith is entirely dependent on on trusting the person that you place your faith in. God's worthy of it. He's trustworthy. Let me leave you with this story. The story was told during World War II. During a particularly violent blitz, bombs were being dropped in a community. A house was beginning to crumble, and a dad grabbed his son by the hand and runs him out the front door. They're trying as quickly as possible to get to a place of safety, and as they're running through the front yard, there's a huge crater that's been left by another bomb that's previously exploded. The dad tried to find whatever shelter he could, jumped down in the crater and thought, this is where we're going to hide out. As he's in the bottom of that crater, he looks up, the place is filled with smoke. And all there really is a haze. And he hollers at his son that he's had by the hand, jump down to me. The son looks and says, but Daddy, I can't see you. I can't see you. And the father's response was really simple. You can't see me, but I can see you. Jump. We have a God. You may say, I haven't laid eyes on him. He sees you. My encouragement this morning is simply this. Jump. Take the leap. Place your faith in him. I can promise you, he'll catch you. Would you pray with me? Father, we thank you for this morning.